And you are listening to the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen?
Greetings to you.
Wherever you are, for music and the latest news from home and from afar, the station for you is
OTR, Old Tube Radio.
the station for you is
OTR.
Music, the latest news, I guess, and more importantly, the latest and greatest, or maybe the oldest and loudest Old Tube Radio is coming your way on the Old Tube Radio Network. Station, go ahead, over.
I'm sorry, I must have done something.
Loudest.
Anyways, SWL 93 wants to check in late.
Not a problem. In fact, I still have page 4 right in front of me. So I will put the mark for SWL 93, and I will also make it official for those at oldtuberadio.net who are watching in. And Louis, you are now checked in for the January 27th OTR.
Thank you much, and we're clear?
All right, thanks for checking in, and the Old Tube Radio Network is listening for, let me grab out the, where is it? Somewhere I have a list, here it is, that I get to check in the Old Tube Radio, so we're ready to do that.
Break OTR. 25.
Okay, I believe I have maybe a triple play of check-ins. Let me see what I've got. I believe I've got Phil. We'll be grabbing you next, and then we're going to go over to Paul, SWL 45, and then to Jerry, SWL 25. So if I didn't call your name or your number and you're trying to get in, go ahead now and I'll add you to the list.
I'm confused, Dennis. Are you talking to Phil or a different Phil or SWL 56?
All right, no, you've got it correct. You will be the first one coming up here. I was making sure that I heard everybody. I think that was, what they call it, a double? I think that was a triple transmission that had actually come in there. But now we are ready to go. So I've got the list. And Mr. Grandpa, Phil, at his microphonium. And we will find out what type of tube radio he has chosen for us tonight. Hello, Phil.
Well, hello, Dennis, and all the SWLs. I decided to pull out and put on the bench my Tram Titan 2 Alpha. Over.
All right, from Tram, we'll start with the big radios, the Titan 2A. It is very loud. Let's put it this way. It starts out very loud, and sometimes it'll get not so very loud, but it's always transmitting. It's always staying keyed up, so if you've got some wiggle meters or blinky lights on there, keep an eye out as you're transmitting, but I can usually hear you. Popping up a picture of the very cool-looking Tram Titan 2A. We have not had one check-in for quite a while, so over to you, and let's see how that thing is working.
Well, okay, now I see my wiggling meters wiggling. I think maybe I just took my lips a little bit away from the microphone or turned. Oh, no, there it goes. Now we're back. Anyway, yes, it's a very nice radio. It's got the Corinthian Naugahyde top to it. Also, it is the last of the all tube type radios in the Tram Titan series. Over.
Yeah, I'm looking. I see the top there. It looks solid. So I'm wondering how do they get? And I see nice wood solid sides. I'm wondering how they get cooling to that thing. I wonder if it runs hot on the top. It reminds me. You know what? It reminds me of the upholstery in my 1970 Buick Riviera. It's black and kind of that vinyl Naugahyde look. We have to take the armor all to that stuff, shine it up, and clean it up. Boy, it is really loud. When it is as you can tell, when the wiggle meters are happening and it's totally functioning, that radio is very loud. Produced in 1971, so unless it was the 40-channel radio is still going later than that, but that's was sort of 71, 72, sort of the year when solid state started taking over. But man, give us another transmission. It is sounding great.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I'm using an Astatic D104 silver Type Eagle microphonium. What? I'm not wiggling anymore. Hello? Oh, I'm wiggling. I don't know. It's there. I'm back. I guess. I don't know. It's dropping out for some reason. I don't know if it's a dusty key switch on the microphonium, or I don't know why. But it seems to be the meters seem to be happy now. Over.
Yeah, they're happy. It's very loud. Occasionally, when it drops down to about 30% modulation, I can still hear you. There'll be a slight AC hum going on. So, like I say, it might be contacts, or there's just a wire that's kind of hanging on by a couple of fingers. That radio originally sold for $500, and the Tram Titan 2A, besides being extra loud, is also one of the interesting and very few that were made, the double sideband AM as well. I think the Tram Titan 2 was double sideband, of course. This is the 2A, which I believe looks quite a bit different than the Tram Titan 2. This is much more modern looking. And the radio we had check in, I think our first radio last week was a Regency Imperial that is also double sideband. Didn't make too many double sideband radios. It wasn't a real popular way to do the sideband, but classic nonetheless. What can I tell you about it? Bigger, better modulator, I guess, on the than the 2A or than the 2. I don't know. I don't know how it could be any better than the 2, but it sounds good. It had 15 tubes. Typically, the sideband radios had 12 to 13. So I wonder what the extra couple of tubes in there. And there is a Collins mechanical filter. If you look in there, you'll see a long, skinny little metal tube. I believe that's what that one is. Back to you.
Well, yes, indeed. It does have the Collins mechanical filter. And basically, if I recall, and it's been a while, but if I recall some of the advertisements, it was basically a Tram Titan 2 with an upgrade, as you, I believe, mentioned, some modulation, et cetera, Over.
Yeah, and I'm saying anybody's heard of the Titan 2 know they were a loud radio, but this one is just nice, clear audio. You could probably put just about any microphone on there and tailor it the way you want, but this one is nice and loud. This would be a good DX radio for sure. Radio number 1, Phil is on his Tram Titan 2A. And if you're at oldtuberadio.net, you'll see a picture. If you're watching the YouTube video, that is a picture of what the Tram Titan 2 looks like if you haven't seen one before. And now you've seen one and heard one. Back to you for another transmission, Phil. Before you go, thanks for getting us started off here.
Well, thank you very much, Dennis. And it's good because it comes from the land of sky blue waters. Thank you, Dennis. Back to OTR.
As Phil reminds us, Tram, the rig refreshing from the land of sky blue waters and the Old Tube Radio Network. Let's add another radio to our list. And that'll take us up the hill a little ways to Paul in North Fork, SWL 45. Are you still there, Paul? Over.
Oh, yeah, listen to the radio. That's a good sound of radio Phil's got there for sure. Anyway, I want to check in my general radio telephone, Super MC12.
Yeah, everybody's bringing out the big iron here tonight. General Radio Telephone Super MC12, which I think probably came out close to 1971 or that era. Let me see if we've got I thought we had a shot of that. In the meantime, it's got great audio. Oh, there it is. And in fact, it is from your collection. Not sure if that's the exact one, but we'll put up the picture and we'll go back to you for a transmission.
Yeah, the radio with the picture, it's kind of disabled. It lost the transformer. That was Jim's radio, SWL number 1. Anyway, I got a replacement from Bob Millham down there. He had a large collection of journals and Brownian radios down in San Diego. I got this one not too long ago to replace that one right there. So anyway, it's MC12. I'll let you get into something else there, Dennis. Go ahead.
All right, to Real Pretty Radio, of course, the General Radio Telephone series, the Master Control series, were all, I'll call them industrial looking like that with the rack handles. This one the 12 looks like it has really bigger rack handles on it. I think when I'm looking at the 5, they were either skinnier or they didn't stick out as far or something. This one just looks Looks real beefy. What can we tell you about the 12? Very much like the Super MC11A, which we will probably hear one coming up before we sign off tonight. General Radio Telephone was sold to Skyhawk Antenna Company in 1972, and they upgraded the MC12 with a much larger and powerful final audio tube. And the MC12 was not able to be type accepted by the FCC, so it's the last General Radio Telephone that they manufactured not type accepted. So my guess is they probably didn't manufacture many of them. So we are listening to a very rare bird indeed. Radio number 2, back to you, Paul, on the General Radio Telephone Super MC12.
Yeah, what's good about this radio is they come out with a RF gain type in the thing where they put it in with the RF tube. And of course, it's used half the RF tube and a squelch. So between that and the RF gain, you can control it with the squelch and all of that. And then you got your A&L, which is fairly good on these things. You've got this is one of the best receiving radios that General's got, plus. I mean, it's unbelievable, much better. It's just too bad they didn't get accepted by the FCC, because this radio with well, you know, in the old days, they call it all mouth and no ears, Dennis. That's the way Generals were kind of noted for. But boy, this radio is not. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, the classic, what do they say, the classic alligator station. Just looking up on the meter, your unmodulated carrier is your typical signal that I normally get for you on the great radios, but boy, that has a lot of forward movement on the meter, and in doing that, it just pushes that audio super clear and really good fidelity too. Whatever microphone you're using, just perfect match, perfect the way it's tuned. If it's amplified, you don't need to touch a thing. And a very good, where's the GRT logo there? I'll point the little mouse pointer at it if you're looking at the video. GRT for General Radio Telephone, Super MC12. Give us another transmission before we move on here. Good to hear the big radios, the Tram Titan 2A 1971 and this from 1972, the General Radio Telephone Super MC12. The war of loudness was definitely happening as the ranks of 11 meters in 1970, 71, 72, 73, 74 were going up into the millions of people. So there was lots of competition. Unfortunately, there was a lot of competition from the import manufacturers that made things a little bit, I guess they could make things a little bit cheaper. So all these radios that were, produced by hand were falling by the wayside because it was just a little bit too hard to do and a little bit too expensive. So the last of a great era right here on the General Radio Telephone Super MC12. Thanks, Paul. Back to you for transmission.
Yeah, I'm using a General CM-3 ceramic microphone made by Turner on this thing. It's a General Radio Telephone microphone, not non-amplified. It doesn't really need amplification on the thing. And I've listened to it before, and it's clean. It's not overly loud or it hurts your ears. It's just real clean. Kind of like you, Dennis. I got to brag on you a little bit. Thanks for checking it in.
Yeah, no, it is clean. And when Chris gets on his General Radio Telephone, he does the same thing with the stock unamplified microphone. And I think General probably did a little bit of research in finding a microphone that was good tone quality for the radio that they had, and then set their radio up so that you really didn't need to put any amplification on it to either sound loud enough or to get the tone quality you want. You're doing just great. Okay, if you are still with us, thanks, Paul. If you're still with us, Jerry, and are not freezing out there in the Radio Shack, I hope you have enough tube radios up and running to keep things nice and toasty in the Radio Shack. We will head over to, let me mark you in, SWL 25. Jerry, out there in Madera Heights. Over.
Yeah, okay, Dennis. And by golly, Paul, what a great sounding MC Super 1112 that is, man. I think sounds good. Anyway, a work in progress. This is, speaking of General Radio Telephones, this is the General Radio Telephone MC5. And we put a new transmit crystal in it, and I'm looking at my frequency. Looks like it's a little high.
maybe it'll come in, I don't know, it's 27.086 flashing the 7. So it might be a little high. I don't know if it'll kind of come in after time, but anyway, Dennis, you know the radio, and back to you.
All right, well, you got me playing with the dial here, so let me make sure I got it correct. It's an MC5, over.
That is correct. General Radio Telephone out of downtown beautiful Burbank, MC5, and according to my freak counter, it's a 28.086 flashing the 7.
All right, I think your freak counter is freaking good. Yeah, let me get a shot here for our viewers as well as our listeners of the General Radio Telephone, and we are going to head back a few years from 1970, where were we at? 72, I think, on the Super MC12, and we will go back to a very popular radio for General Radio Telephone in probably 1962 or 63, I think. I'll get the skinny here. What we'll do, courtesy of Paul, SWL45, who was just on with us, has a great General Radio Telephone collection, so we're going to use a radio from his collection to put up on the video, and that is the Super MC, or I'm sorry, the MC5. They didn't quite do the Super just yet on that. And yeah, I zero beated you at 27086.5, so a little bit high, but I think, I don't know which radio it was. You were, I think one you had last week was about 3 kc low. So this one is acceptable. This is working. It sounds great, over.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, it's a lot better than the crystal I had in this before. I think I can't remember. I was either low or high, but anyway, we found another crystal, put it in there, and there you go. That's all I know. Anyway, I appreciate it. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but thanks for checking it in. The General Radio Telephone, MC5.
Okay, don't worry about the time. That's why we are here. That's why we have been here for over 34 years on Saturdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Actually, in the early days, it was 8 to 11 p.m., believe it or not, because I think we could all stay up later 30 years ago. Anyway, we like to spend the time with our tube radio operators and their collections to, one, keep them on the air. You know, sometimes you just got to run these radios a little bit to make sure that they are working. And two, we have a lot of listeners out there that enjoy hearing the radios and may have some like them themselves. The MC5 was probably the most advertised General Radio Telephone CB. Anybody that has an older CB magazine, regardless of what it might be, look in your 1962 or 63 vintage versions, and no doubt you will find probably a half page or a full color advertisement for the MC5. A lot like the MC4, but it had a stronger transmitter, and it was the last General with the tone signal. Yeah, before you go, Jared, let's talk about that tone signal. Somewhere, where is it? If you're looking at the picture, look underneath the S meter, right in the front of the radio, and there's a switch there, and that has something to do with the tone signal, over.
Yeah, you know what, that reminds me when Eric, I think it was number 17, had his MC5, but his tone signal was a little, I don't know, I had some issues. Anyway, sure, I'll show it to you right now. Here we go, Dennis, back to you.
All right, I think that one's perfect. It's got the oscillating tone, the warbles. I remember Eric's 17's was sort of like Martian slogging through Walden Pond. It didn't. Sorry, I got my foot switch not working here. It didn't quite have that sound, but that is the way I remember. I do remember these MC5s and what we used to call them Tweety Birds. The Tweety Bird, and that is in fine style. After that, the MC6, they were replaced with the bullhorn, thanks to the FCC saying, we don't like that. We think people are jamming that. But believe it or not, this radio was able to run 6-volt DC. It was still set up for some of the 6-volt stuff. Some of the early automobiles had 6-volt systems, 12-volt DC and 115-volt AC. And unlike the 15-tube Tram Titan that we heard earlier tonight, this is only 7. This is half the tubes and still sounding great. There's also a schematic available if you go to oldtuberadio.com. Thanks for Radio 3. It's sounding great. Over.
And thanks for checking it in, Dennis. Let's hear another radio out there. Back to you.
That's like, we like the radios. Let me switch over to the control room here and take a transmission. I am running a new microphone tonight. Actually, it's an old microphone, but I'll say it's a different microphone. This is a headset microphone combination, and I thought I would really like this. I borrowed it from the radio station. It's the Audio-Technica BP1, and I used to run a Heil headset because it keeps everything nice and compact. Speaking of the Heil, here's the Heil that I normally run, but we've got it out of the preamp tonight. But I think I may like the separate microphone better because I have to plug different audio into the headsets, and the audio, the microphone goes somewhere else. And it's very sensitive. This one's very sensitive, picking up a lot of popping plosives and breath noises. So I apologize for that, but hopefully the audio won't be too bad tonight. I'll listen into my archives. Speaking about not too bad, let's check in with those. I think I've got you guys patched in over there. Let's check in with the Jingle Singers and see what they have to tell us tonight.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, your favorite spot on the dial by far is known to you as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
All right, the Old Tube Radio Network, and I wanted to say hello to Rob, first-time listener. I was wondering who the Colorado station was. We used to have a station that came in from Colorado when we were, a couple of years ago, back as Cycle 24 was peaking and heading down. We were actually able to talk to him a couple times here on Channel 11. A lot of us, Rob, are ham radio operators, enjoy the AM mode of operation. There is an AM radio night coming up. I will get the info. I think it's at the beginning of February. I was kind of kicking myself. I don't have my antennas set up. But out there in Woodland Park, Colorado, Rob, Mr. Romeo Uniform, looking good, Rob. I'm glad you found us, the oldtuberadio.net. And yeah, you might be able to, if you have 10 meters, check into our Wednesday night net when we get some E-skip here in Fresno. It's on Wednesday nights on 28. And the station that just checked in, he's one of the net controllers there, Jerry. It's on 28, 445 on Wednesdays evenings here on Pacific time at, what time is it? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock on Wednesday. So listen in on that frequency and see if you can hear some of the Central Valley guys. All right, let me stop talking, and we will be looking for radio number 4.
How about a late check-in?
Late check-ins are always welcome here at the Old Tube Radio Network, looking for page number 1 and grabbing the SWL Big Check-In list.
I would thank you much for putting a check mark in SWL number 7, and I'll definitely turn on some tubes. I should be able to at least get 1 or 2 in before the evening is over.
All right, we have, gosh, we're near the top of the hour here, so we have another hour, so it should be plenty of time. We are looking for radio number 4. Also, let's see, any other comments I might want to check on. Let me check the video side, see who's out listening over there. Anybody? Nobody, huh? Nobody on the chat. Well, we'll see what happens. OTR standing by.
Break OTR.
The break OTR. Go ahead, please.
City checking in, and I might as well check in the Golden Eagle Mark III with a standard Banana microphone.
Yeah, let's do that. I will get you checked in on the SWL board first, SWL 50. That is Mark. I was thinking somehow you had already checked in, and I looked, and no, there is an empty space. But not anymore. We put the X in the square, and then we'll go back to you for a key down on the Big Kahuna, the Browning Golden Eagle. I guess that's the Mark III with SSB and all that good stuff.
Affirmative, it would be, and with the ginormous
material on it. Anyway, I'll get back to what I was doing, and have a good evening.
All right, thanks for stopping by and waving a hand. And I like the way you've got the ping orchestrated on that one. It's sort of like it dive bombs. The birds kind of go near and comes down in and kicks in your S meter. Thank you, Mark, for checking in. And also, Radio 4, the first Browning of the evening. And for those who are new listening in, as I mentioned before, the Old Tube Radio Network, we meet every Saturday night starting at 8 p.m. Pacific time on Channel 11, which is 27085. If you have a frequency dial, or maybe you're tuning in on an old Hallicrafters or something, you might be able to pick us up. Also want to say hello to, looks like X4000 is out there listening in from Brentwood tonight. Thank you, X4000. We'll get you checked in as well. We've been on the air for 34 years, thanks to our tube radio operators, and we're looking for radio number 5. And there is JT, SWL 83. Yeah, I missed, I don't know if it was something we did or whatever, but said he didn't quite make it in earlier. And I remember looking, that's right, I remember looking for South Carolina, and I didn't see on the list, but Somerville is definitely out there now. So JT checking in. Is that a new little icon there? It looks like a D104 microphonium. But anyway, you are looking good, and let me punch you up on the big board here to make 83 official at the Old Tube Radio Network, and we are looking for radio number 5. Hello, 25, over.
Yeah, sorry about the little space. I wanted to give this radio a chance to warm up. I'd like to check in the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB.
All right, well, that is the popular radio here at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock. Our 9 o'clock check-in was Mark's Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB, and at 9:04, we'll do it again with yours. It has an even different little ping coming in, but boy, does it sound loud. Give us another transmission, over.
Yeah, okay. You know, it would be kind of curious. I don't know if I've ever checked the frequency on this particular. Oh, wow. It's right on. 27085. How about that? Anyway, the red on the air light is hurting, as my ex-German boss would say. The meters are bouncing around, and, by the way, we are transmitting on a non-powered banana mic that I think came with the kit, but I think Electro Voice made this particular microphone, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we talked about it has the bass there, and you got to be real careful because you pull the mic out of the bass, and sometimes it sticks, and then the bass falls and it breaks, shatters like glass. But anyway, it's almost happened a couple times, but but this is all intact and everything's working fine. So, anyway, thanks for checking in, Dennis, and back to you.
All right, sounds good for Radio 5. Don't go away, because I'm going to have you take another transmission. I was going to do a zero beat. Just crystal clear audio on the banana-style microphone. The nice thing about it coming out of the base, where the microphone pops out of the base, is you can swing that microphone around without hurting anybody. Sometimes the D104 is a little bit tricky with the big heavy bass on there, to wiggle around to get the ping, the sound the way you want. But the Electro Voice banana mic is a little bit lighter when the bass is sitting on the table, and you can do your item of interest. I popped a picture up for those watching the video at oldtuberadio.net, as well of the really great shot that SWO 135 has of his Browning Golden Eagle. So anybody not familiar with the radio, this is the big one, the big receiver and the big transmitter with the sideband built in. That sold a lot, even at, what were these, $700 or even more, from 1972 to probably about 1975 or 76, when they came out with the Mark IV, because they're trying to get the 40-channel transmitter in there. Sounds great. Before you go give us another transmission, I'll get a zero beat on you.
Yeah, and two-piece radio with the start button, so you hit the start button to kind of calibrate the transmitter to at least get it close enough, and which is always kind of fun to do. I'm just looking at how I have this thing set, if I have it on SWR, if I have it on modulation. I got it on, let me do it this way. Okay, there, I had it on SWR, but now it's on modulation. So the meter's showing me how I'm modulating, and it looks like it's doing a good job.
Yeah, on the Brownings, the Mark IIIs, I always didn't like the modulation meter, because it's usually smashing up against the case. I always thought, man, that's going to damage that thing. And then, of course, if you have your SWRs really nice, then it doesn't hardly move at all. Sits the other way. So there's got to be a happy medium. You know how we are. You know how our operators are. We'd like to see something wiggling and bouncing and lights flashing. Check the zero beat, and you are correct. Man, right? I didn't have to touch the dial at all. 27085, maybe 10 cycles low, but it's right on there. Radio 5, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB, and it's sounding good. And I always like to say I've been lucky enough to actually sit in the operating position of that radio and take a few transmissions. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem, Dennis. And I actually did switch that knob back to reflection, and then, yeah, the meter's much happier. It is hardly moving right there. So, yeah, but when I had it on modulation, you were right. It was banging all over the place. So, alrighty. Well, anyway, I appreciate the tip, and thanks for checking it in. Back to you, Dennis.
All right. Thanks for checking in. I want to say hello to, who is out there? Gary. Gary's listening in. And JT. I'll have to take a look when I get a chance. My computer screen's full of windows here that I need for the program, but I'll take a look at that icon, which he says is a handmade wooden replica of a D104. That is... Who used to be, we had a guy that used to check in a long time ago. His name was Ron, LBT, Little Big Truck. And I don't have the item here with me in the shack, but he was a woodworker as well. And he made us a wooden tube plaque. He lathed, and I don't know what kind of wood it was, but he lathed a couple of tubes and the plaque and everything else. I'll have to bring it here and show it sometime, but really nice. So a lot of good things you can do if you are handy with woodworking. Let's see, what I do have is I'm reminded here is back here to turn on the air light. That was a gift from SWL 84, 86, 87, and 88. So the on the air light is on. Also, let me say hello to those listening in at oldtuberadio.net. The digital side, looking to the 6L6. Hello to Oakland, California, just tuning in. Lexington, Kentucky, where out or near, is it Waukesha, Wisconsin? Of course, JT out there in Somerville. X4000 is in. Frisco, Texas, still listening in. Kakalak's in tonight. Guys up in Toll House. Chantilly, Virginia. Utah's in. Dallas, Georgia's still in. Our station in Woodland Park, Rob out there in Colorado, or near Woodland Park, I guess, and various stations in Fresno, all2radio.net. When you see the glowing 6L6, we are streaming. The site is always up, but don't have the audio up unless you see the glowing tube. Speaking of glowing tubes, we are looking for radio number 6.
45.
And there is 45, a little bit more subdued than the last time we heard you on the big General Radio Telephone MC12, but it sounds interesting. Paul, take a transmission over.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this isn't quite the radio that General is, but it's a nice radio. The Lafayette Comsat 25A.
Oh, the classic Lafayette. We heard a lot of those back in the early days here. The 25, or the 23s, I think was there a 23, and then the 25, 25A. Don't hear many of the 25Bs. I will grab a picture of a 25A, which is yours. When you think of old tube radios and CB, the 25A is sort of the standard metal, not fancy wood sides, very utility, switches and knobs and a meter, and it's sounding good. Radio 6, give us a transmission.
Yeah, it's a neat radio. Like you say, it's manufactured in 1968, and by Panasonic in Japan. So they did a fine job on the thing. It's got a range boost on the thing. See, I'm going to kick it on and see if that helps or it hurts. I can't tell. I'm not running the stock mic. I never had a stock mic for this thing. So I'm running a Turner microphone on the thing. It's the SSB power mic on the thing, +2. So I don't know if that brain boost helped or not. Did it help or make it worse?
Yeah, it helped. I think the way your radio is adjusted, it's kind of in between. What do I mean by that? When you're on the stock mic, or the mic you're on with no range boost, you're maybe 70 or 80% modulation. It sounds good. When you flip it on, I wouldn't say it's too much, but it certainly changes things. If I was looking at the S meter there, and you've got all sorts of forward movement on the meter. So I think for this, you might want to keep it on in case someone is far out. I would imagine that would help out. But it is doing what it's supposed to do for sure. And as we know from the tube radios, because of their audio, you have a lot of leeway to change microphones and tailor your sound. So it works either way. We're showing, if you're at oldtuberadio.com or at the video, we're showing a shot of not the Comstat 25A that Paul is on, but the likeness. It looks like it's all 23 channels, crystal controlled. I'm showing that it actually would go 12 volt DC, I guess, if you have the proper cable in the back. And indeed, I did not know that, Paul. I thought that was still manufactured out of the U.S., but probably in the Comstat series, and I'm not sure when they switched over. It was on the 23 or the 19. They had a 19 and 23 25A. They had gone to the Panasonic chassis, probably because it was a little bit less expensive. Let's go back to you for another transmission.
Yeah, I was trying to find how much these things cost back then. I don't know if you got an idea on that or not. I don't have it on my notes here or nothing, so I'll have to check that out and see. I would say probably $150. I'd probably be pretty close on the thing. You probably know that better than I do, Dennis. Yeah, it's a nice little radio. It's got fine-tuning, channel control on the thing, and it's just a clean-looking little radio. It's not too little either. It's a big radio. It's doing a job to get down the hill to you, and that's the main thing. Thanks for checking in, Dennis.
All right, thanks for bringing it by, mentioning that we have an operator's manual for that if you go to oldtuberadio.com. And I don't know, I should probably have it ingrained in my memory, because when those came out, the 25As, the 23s, I was probably, I'm not sure if I actually had a radio yet for a big transmitter for CB. I know I had my Hallicrafters walkie-talkies back in the late 60s. And I know I had Lafayette catalogs, looking at all their stereo gear and receivers and things, and probably looked at that 100 times. So I could tell you whatever the price was, it was way more than somebody in high school could afford at that time. Radio 6, the Lafayette Comstat 25 Alpha. Thanks, Paul.
Number 7.
CB22. I don't know if you brought that up or not, but they're in Sam's book just in case. Okay, thanks again, Dennis.
Okay, if I had that there, I might have moved it. I changed the page. Oh, yeah, you are correct. CB20, page 61, it says. Good deal. The Old Tube Radio Network, real radios glowing in the dark. And we do this every Saturday from 8 to 10 p.m. Pacific time. And kind of hang out. This is probably what it sounded like if you weren't around in the mid-'60s. People just taking transmissions and having a good time on their tube radios because they weren't, I guess because they couldn't go over to their cell phones and play around. After watching Donna Reed and who was on Saturday nights? Ed Sullivan was Sunday nights, but whoever was on Bonanza, whoever was on Saturday night after your favorite program was off, you went into the other room or off to the other side of the room and turned on the CB radio. We are looking for Radio 7, and I do believe Radio 7 is actually out there. Hello, Mr. Ed.
And hello, Dennis, and all the SWLs out there. Yes, this one is the Johnson Messenger 223.
Another classic like the Lafayette for the late 1960s. The Messenger 223 was their third in line from the big three, right? The Viking, the white face, and then the Viking 2, the black face, and then when E.F. Johnson said, well, we're making some money doing this. Let's give them the big radio. And they had the Messenger 223, and that is what Ed is talking on. While you take a transmission, I will see if I can find a picture for us here.
There you go. Yeah, a nice, simple radio. You only have 3 knobs on the front, and of course, a place to put your microphone in. And you need to have a microphone plugged in, or you won't have a receive on it. This one did not come with the original microphone, so I've got a Silver Eagle D104 attached.
Good choice. I guess for any of these tube radios, you can't go wrong by attaching a D104 of any ilk. I don't know, unless you get a crystal microphone element on there, something might sound a bit tinny, but it's got good quality. Good quality audio. We're showing a picture of the infamous Messenger 223. They also farmed this out to Sears Roebuck. If anybody has an old Sears Roebuck catalog from 1969 or 70, look in their little CB section that they had. They actually had a CB section in the big catalog. You will see a radio that looks really similar to this, but it'll have a Sears Roebuck logo on it, and I don't remember what they called it, but I don't think it was called the Johnson. That's for sure. Give us another transmission. It is sounding good, and we're showing the version, the picture we've got of the version without of the modulation light.
And that would be the same version that I have. I'm not sure when the light was put on and why. That one has it and this one doesn't. No clue. Maybe one day we shall find out. But otherwise, that's all there is.
Very good. A good price point for a radio that had it all. 23 channels on the S-meter, around $200. A little bit more. A lot of them came with the desk mic. This is basically a bass-style radio. It doesn't say that it has any cords or adaptations to go 12-volt DC, and I suppose at that time, Johnson had, I think it was a 323 or a 123. They had a couple of smaller solid-state mobile radios that they were starting to produce, so this was their designated base station. Speaking of SAMs, if you've got a PhotoFax 23, this one will be on page 53. And before you go, Ed, give us another transmission. I want to say that all of our audio is archived at oldtuberadio.net. There's an archive button at the top of the page. If you click on that, it will load all these little 3-inch reel-to-reel tapes on the OTR magnetophone. And if you pick the date you're looking for, like January 27th, 2018, and whether it's an SWL check-in block or a tube radio check-in block, using the Universal Media Net web player of your choice, you'll be able to hear your audio back. Give yourself a radio check. Give us another transmission before you go on the E.F. Johnson.
Okay, there we go. The E.F. Johnson Messenger 223. This one has a couple of LED lights put in there, so it's not a nice blue light in there behind the dial, which is kind of nice. Also has some buffalo nickels put in place of where the knobs had that little gold insert in there. Other than that, that's a plain old Johnson radio. With that one, we'll get out of here, and I think I'll bring the Eagle for the next one.
All right, it is, 9:21, so we have plenty of time to get everybody checked in tonight who would like to check in. And appreciate our listeners, whether it might be local or distant, tuning in and helping us out here. The Old Tube Radio Network. Speaking of helping us out, where are those jingle singers? We don't pay them much, but what we do pay them, they're supposed to do something. Here we go.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you, wherever you are. The friendliest station for you by far is known to all as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
And we were looking for radio number 8.
And don't forget, we had Jackie Gleason in there, Ed Sullivan's show, the Lawrence Welk show. Let's see, there was another one in there. Dean Martin, he had a good show. Does weekends and stuff too, but break OTR.
Yeah, I bet it was Jackie Gleason on Saturday nights in the 60s. And then at some point, the Smothers Brothers ran in on Saturday nights, I think. Or maybe they were on Sundays against Bonanza. But anyway, the break OTR. Hello, Chris.
And Laughing also. Got to get Laughing in there. We are doing well, I do believe. I would like to check in a radio if it is all possible with you, sir.
It is all possible, especially since this is the Old Tube Radio Network.
Ground control to Major Tom. Okay. Anyway, this is me, Chris. We are talking on my general radio telephone, the Super MC11A, 24-channel version of this here with a handheld stock microphone. No modifications, no range boost or no modulators, just my lungs.
Just your version of the Harvey range boost. I don't know, Chris, if you were in earlier this evening. Our second radio of the night was a General Radio Telephone Super MC12, which is the model that followed that. And in theory, it actually had some audio modifications to make it louder, which I didn't think was possible. But if you were to hear how Paul sounded on his, it was excellent. And he's also running the General Radio stock microphone, so they really figured it out here for the MC10, the MC9, the Super MC series, and the 11A, which is what you're on for Radio 8, is sounding most marvelous. Take a transmission.
Simply marvelous. That's what they say. Simply marvelous. But yeah, no, it's definitely working, and this one's mine, and it's working, and it's on channel 11.
Which is a good thing. I try as much as I can, if somebody's a little off frequency, to chase them around. But yeah, I really need you to be close to channel 11, and then I will do my best to make sure that everybody hears what's going on here. The Super MC11A, 9 tubes, a couple of transistors thrown in there, and the secret, I think, that General Radio Telephone, the Burbank, the crew from beautiful downtown Burbank found that ECLL 800 tube in the modulator to make things nice and loud like yours is. Over.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. You said on frequency. Am I on frequency?
Oh, well, that's a good question. Take a transmission here, and I will do a 0 beat on you. Over.
And then we'll go to second gear, and then go to third gear, and that. This is the transmission, and going in the fourth gear, so that'd be like the little lady of Pasadena and her little GTO, am I on frequency?
You are at 27084999. Yeah, you're on frequency. I didn't have to move it at all, so if I go to a sideband, you are right there. The little old lady from Pasadena, believe it or not. I don't think she was from Burbank. And if I remember the song correctly, She was in her super stock Dodge terrorizing Colorado Boulevard. I've been on Colorado Boulevard. That is where they have the big kind of sloping street avenue up there in Pasadena where they have the Rose Parade.
Yeah, I was up there years ago. Back in the 60s, I was up there. I don't want to talk about what I was doing there, but I was there.
Yeah, they had what was the other parade they have? The Doodah Parade as well. But all I remember is I got there, the parade was already on, and I think I must have parked 2 miles away to find a spot and then walked up this steep incline that went forever to get to the end of Colorado Boulevard where all the parades and floats and things were turning around. But I guess I do remember it. Radio number 8, we are chatting with Chris, and he is on his General Radio Telephone Super MC11A. That's the radio we're looking at if you're watching the video. So give us another transmission before you go, but it sounds super good.
Oh, no problem. I was going to tell you who was in there with. Now I can't think of the name. The Chambers Brothers. Okay. Back in 1960 something or other, 68, something like that maybe. Me and a bunch of friends was all partying. Met a guy in Hollywood. And we ended up going to Altadena and Pasadena. But the guy that we ended up partying with was actually the lead singer out of what I just told you. Brain Dead.
Yeah, well, sometimes those 10 or 20 years go by really quick. The Chambers Brothers, I'm trying to think what they did. Were they the ones that had the song, was it Time? Something like that, but I remember that.
Yeah, the time has come today. Yeah, that's the song. But yeah, we met him down there on Hollywood Boulevard. He was out there just doing whatever he felt like doing that one evening, and a concert was canceled that was supposed to have been there at the Shrine Auditorium. And needless to say, we met him, and oh boy, was that was a long weekend.
A long week, a long lost weekend. It sounds like. Sounding good, Chris. Hope I'm sounding good tonight. I'm looking. If you're watching these are Audio-Technica BP1 headphone microphone. Normally I use the Heil microphone on the boom, and I was just checking these out to see if it would be a little bit better, but I don't know. I forget. There's a lot of clunky noise when you pick these things up, and then it's got this huge cable that I'm trying to dress out of the way here. I've got this white sweater on tonight, so everything kind of shows up. I got to be careful. Don't eat Italian food here while I'm on the air. We're looking for radio number 9.
All right. Well, I was going to say one thing. I'll go get a look on there, see if we got some Italian food. We'll send you that way. I can look at it when you drop it on your sweater. But yes, I was going to say that you were sounding quite mellow, like. Man, call me mellow yellow, but no, you sound very good. It's not over-modulated, not under-modulated. It's just crisp, clean, caffeine-free.
All right, I think it's because I've got this microphone right in front of my face. It's sort of like you're talking to somebody in their ear. Was there a breaking station? This is the Old Tube Radio Network. Number 9. Number 9. Go ahead, number 9, over.
Yeah, I thought I'd jump in here tonight since I can hear you again. 43 checks in with this Mark 3.
All right, and I agree that for some reason, our conditions are doing quite well tonight, and you have some really good audio. You're not much on the signal department, but if you listen to the archives, the audio is the thing. It's very deceiving. It sounds like I should be seeing a lot more deflection on the meter. SWL 43, and give us another transmission on, I do believe you say you are on the Mark III. Is that a full SSB or an AM version, over?
That is the AM version. I do have it free, but it isn't fixed yet.
All right, doing great. We don't hear many of the AM Mark IIIs. We do hear a lot of the SSBs. Great audio. What microphone are you using on that one, over?
The stock D104 on it.
All right, on the stock D104. Let me see if I have a Mark III AM. Okay, I've got an advertisement. It's not the greatest picture, but I'm going to go ahead and put that up because we've shown a couple of the Mark IIIs, but the difference, of course, is that the transmitter, which is the smaller unit, it's not quite the size of the receiver because it doesn't have the sideband built in. The good thing about that, back in the day, I think the AM version of the Mark III was about $200 cheaper, so you could get yourself a Browning and still have buy groceries. All right, well, you're doing good. We are not that close together down here in the Midtown Fresno area, and good to hear you. Glad you chose to fire it up here at 27085. It sounds, it really does sound good. Like I said, the signal is not, it's just above my noise level, but the audio is excellent. Okay, we'll get 650 in and get all the Course Gold guys checked, all the mountain stations checked in tonight. So we are having some pretty decent weather, so I don't think it's too cold up there. I don't think the roads are icing up too bad, but doing good. Now, Golden Eagle Mark III AM base station represents the highest standard of electronic engineering for AM operation. This base utilizes the same quality transceiver matched to the famous Mark III AM transmitter, and that's what they're telling you on the ad.
Roger. Have a good evening, Dennis. We'll be on the standby.
All right, thank you, Eddie. And as they say, discover the pleasure of owning the finest $495 radio on the market. So there you go. They weren't even afraid to tell you the price on the advertisement. You're listening to the Old Tube Radio Network, and before we do Radio 10, let's let the Jingle Singers tell us a little bit about the latest style here.
You're listening in the latest style.
27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio.
In wonderful
Fresno, California.
45.
And from 43 to 45. Hello, Paul. Over.
Yeah, back again, Dennis. This radio is made in Burbank, California also. It's a Gonset G15 3429.
Okay, make sure I write it down. The G15, their series were G typically. I have a G76, but it's their amateur radio. And what are the four numbers after the 15? Over.
Okay, it's 3429.
Okay, and I think the designators on those would tell you whether it was a 12-volt radio or a 115-volt radio or maybe even a 6-volt radio. I'll see if I have a picture of the 3429, and I do. I have a picture and I have an advertisement. Let's pop up the picture first because it actually says it's from Paul's collection. Okay, that is different than what I thought. I'm used to the G11 that we get, and that one has the Magic Eye. Of course, this is a little bit later production. It looks like they've fancied things up a bit. They've got an S meter going on, and it's not doing a bad job. It has some great audio. Give us another transmission.
Yeah, it also got a spot switch on the thing too. They did quite a few extra things on the little radio. I tell you, the receiver on this thing is really strange, but it's working, so I'm not going to say anything about it. It does have a VFO on the thing, and it's got crystals for 4 channels, and that's it. But it's got a meter on it, so they were pretty up to date on the thing. Anyway, back to you.
And we talked about Gonset. I guess they sold to the Young Spring and Wire Company, but out of Burbank, California. It was Faust Gonset, and then Robert Gonset, who is also a ham radio operator, and he has a call W6 something. I don't think I have the Gonset history pulled up, but they did a lot of interesting kind of out-of-the-box styles of radios. They made a lot of, in this style of radio, converters that you could put on your AM radio and listen to 10 meters. They made the communicator series, Anybody have those? It's the looks like a yellow lunchbox and they had a 10-meter communicator and a 6-meter communicator and a 2-meter. I've got the 2-meter version with the Magic Eye, and it runs AM. So Gonset, Gonset, out of beautiful downtown Burbank. The receiver, I see the channel selector there. Is the receiver the other knob, I guess, on the left-hand or the right-hand side? Looks like it might be a little bit of a challenge to figure out what frequency you're on.
Well, there's VFOs on the bottom left, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, your VFO control, I guess it's marked with channel numbers or frequencies or something. It looks a little small. Like I said, it might be a kind of a challenge to get things tuned in.
Yeah, it's got a 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, and 23 on the thing, so take your pick. Go into your ear and go from there. But it does have a meter on it, so you can tune that very easily, which they thought about that, and the spark switch on it. It had all the goodies. It's a 10-tube radio, and I tell you what, it's not much bigger than the VS general radio telephone. It's a little bit longer, but not much bigger physically. So they crammed them all in this thing. It's kind of like my no-name radio. It's small and everything's crammed in, but they work. Back to you.
And that wasn't unusual for Gonset to keep things really concise and portable. My G76, it's a small radio that has a separate power supply and speaker, and they actually added 6 meters on it, but it's an AM radio. I made a couple of contacts to the 75-meter guys on that G76. I picked it up for $25 at the TRW swap meet. Here is the advertisement. Let me see if I can read anything off of that. Dual conversion receiver designed to provide unichannel reception. Provides 100% modulation. Maximum usable receiver sensitivity. Universal low drain power requirements. Squelch adjustable from the front panel. Heat-proofed ceramic microphone. I guess you don't want it to melt when it's sitting on that metal dashboard on the Ford Falcon. You are Radio 10, and before you go, on the Gonset G15 3429, give us another transmission, over.
Okay, well, I'm not running the microphone. They show the turn of microphone in the picture of the stock one. Now, this one didn't have a microphone, of course, so I just use whatever I can. It sounds good on the radio. I'm running a Retro Voice 715 ceramic microphone on it. And it seemed like the modulation looks pretty good on the meter. I don't know how it sounded real good. I'll find out. That's one thing great about it. You can hear what they sound like and maybe return if they don't sound good. Anyway, thanks very much for checking in, Dennis.
All right, those watching the video here see me playing with the receiver, and I was zero beating you. You are at 83. That sounds bad. Like I'm not beating you up. I'm actually going to the receiver here and seeing where your sidebands fall. 83.3. So you're a little more than 2 kc low, but it sounded good on my AM. I keep the bandwidth kind of wide on my receiver, so I won't have that problem of not hearing anybody. But a little bit low on the crystal. But sounds good. Young Spring and Wire Company at 801. Is it 801 South Main Street in Burbank, California? What is there now, I wonder? They don't give a phone number. Otherwise, we try and give them a call right now on the phone patch. Radio 10, the Gonset G15. Thanks, Paul. Always good to hear a Gonset radio.
Question, comment?
Question, comment. Go ahead. Over.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I was out of the room and I kind of heard, kind of out of earshot, to quite understand. You referred to one of the Gonset models. I thought I heard you say it was yellow, and that alerted my mind, such that it is. Didn't they make civil defense radios like on 6 meter or other frequencies? It just caught my ear. Over.
Yes, absolutely. They called them the Communicator series, and then I think what you're referring to and what I was talking about, the yellow ones, and mine might even have a civil defense, the old CD with the C and the D next to it, and it looks like a circle with a line through the center. And I was trying to look past all the audio rack gear here because I thought I might have it up on the shelf, but I don't see it behind everything. The communicator was yellow. Mine was a 2-meter version. I think it had a CD sticker on it. And you are correct. They had them for 6 meters. There was a communicator. They gave the numbers like a communicator 2 and a communicator 3. And I can't remember if they, like the 10-meter version would be the 1 and the 6-meter would be the 2 and the 2-meter would be the 3. But it's sort of in line like that. So, yeah, you are remembering correctly. Over.
Well, thank you. I know this is kind of an aside, but my father got school grants and government grants. My father was a chemistry, physics teacher, and he got school grants. And when I was about 4 years old, he went to Berkeley on a government grant to continue his education, because at the time, of course, the Cold War and all this and that. And he came back to the house, our house, where I live in right now, same house, with a large footlocker, to say, with dosimeters and radios and such and the like, that he in turn was to turn over to the local civil defense. But even from that childhood memories still sticks in my mind today, just for whatever. Over.
Okay, and good memories. I've pulled up a Gonset Communicator 2, which I believe is the 6-meter version, and it is indeed yellow. Although it doesn't look yellow being transmitted here. If you're looking at the YouTube video, it might look a little pink, but it is yellow. It has the magic I2 brightness center, and I remembered correctly. It does have the little civil defense logo as well. So, yeah, back in the day, when we were all doing a duck and cover and hoping that Khrushchev wouldn't beat his shoe on the table, Gonset was making sure that we would be ready.
Well, indeed so, and it was just a memory from my childhood, and remembering actually seeing this in the living room in the house that I still live in now. It's kind of cool in my memory. May not be to anybody else, but I do recall seeing that civil defense sticker and the civil defense yellow color, and it just refreshed my memory as to what that was with Gonset and the last SWL. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Phil. Good memory on that one. I think all of us have probably something like that, whether it's a good memory, bad memory of that era. And interesting that yours would be radio related. You never know what gets us into the hobby. Sometimes just curiosity for those types of things. Just a reminder that if you're tuning in at 27085, you're probably in the Central Valley of California listening to us on Channel 11. If you're anywhere else, oldtuberadio.net, or maybe on the YouTube video, this is the Old Tube Radio Network out of Central California. We do this every Saturday from 8 to 10 p.m., and we've been doing it, believe it or not, for about 34 years, where we sit back and let the tube radio collectors and operators have the frequency for a while. Just like you would drive your classic car around the block once in a while, maybe drive it to the hamburger stand and meet up with your friends. That's what we do here on the air with the classic tube radios, 11-meter Class D radios from 1958 to about 1978 when they stopped putting tubes in things. But we have fun and try and relive some of the memories, like Phil was talking about, that we have as younger people about radios, whether they were ours or the ones we hoped we would have, or maybe our parents or our uncles or something like that. So we have a good time here every Saturday. We are looking for Radio 11.
Number 7.
And 711. Hello, Mr. Ed.
Well, this time, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB with the Browning banana microphone.
Sounding good on the Browning Laboratories Mark III SSB. Let me get a shot of the receiver or some such items. Here's a tube layout diagram. Let me pop that up. That will be a little bit different. And yours, of course, is sounding quite nice.
Oh, well, thank you. Hopefully, this one's not doing too awful bad. The modulation meter is definitely smacking against the side, so it's letting me know that it is broadcasting something out there anyway. Looks like I have the little watt meter out here that says I'm doing almost 12 watts out, so a little more than the 4.
A little more than the 4, unless you're on like a PEP meter or something. I'm showing a Browning Golden Eagle Mark III receiver tube layout diagram. I guess I didn't know. They're showing 12 tubes? 1, 2. Oh, those look very small. Maybe they're new visitors. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I didn't realize that had the 12 tubes just in the receiver.
There you go. There's a lot of tubes in this little critter. So, yeah, you put both of them together. It's a lot of extra warmth in the room. So, during the wintertime, it's great.
Yeah, it says 12 tubes, RF amps, a couple RF amps, first oscillator mixers, IF amps, AM, ANL, 6AL5, Squelch AX amp, 12X7, audio output 6AQ5, and SSB carrier detect 6BE6. So that's right, I forgot it has sideband, so sometimes you need a couple extra tubes from that. 1972 or thereabouts on the Mark III set. Yours is sounding good. I like the way you've got the ping going tonight, and it's Radio 11.
Yeah, just have it in the little ping mode there. Let's see, yeah, even on the no peaking, it's still going up over the 5 there. Well, yeah. I guess the old meter here is, oh, there we go. Yeah, actually, that's not too bad. Oh, well, I guess the guys at Red Monkey did a pretty good job when they did the tweaking and peaking.
Yeah, when it comes to the classic radios, they know what they're doing over there, and thanks to them and the crew, have kept a lot of us and pretty much have helped keep this net going by making sure that the local guys have radios to talk on and that they work.
And there you go with a little extra on that one. Yes, they definitely fixed this one and did it quite right because it had been sitting in the dust for a little while. Was talking on it one night, and all of a sudden it just kind of died. It seems that multiple things went all at the same time.
That happens, unfortunately. So you just have to I don't know, cross your fingers, I guess. Anyway, sounding good. Like having the selectable ping, and as we talked about earlier, depending on your microphone, you can orchestrate it so that you have your own sound.
And there you go. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and get out of here. Looks like it's getting close to that time, and hopefully you'll get a couple more radios in.
All right, thanks for Radio 11, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. It is getting close to that time. The jingle singers are going to tell us about the magic of the old tube radio network.
What are the magic numbers?
27.085 megahertz, channel 11.
Are the magic letters?
OTR.
Right here in
Fresno, California.
Radio Magic.
Old Tube Radio.
For you.
be careful not to hit the microphone here. You're listening to the Old Tube Radio Network. We're looking for Radio 12.
Let's do some spelling.
OTR. 27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio. Old Tube Radio.
And looking for number 12, Radio 12 on the Old Tube Radio Network.
See if this thing's warmed up enough. SWL number 7.
Your meters are telling you true. Appear to be transmitting and has audio over.
Ah, good deal. Well, in that case, the big old green tram TR27E with the big S meter on there and the Electro Voice 638 microphone.
Okay, let's do the tram. Maybe we'll have tram bookends tonight. I believe. Let me double check, but I believe our first radio of the evening tonight was a tram. Phil brought by the Titan 2A. I think it was from 1971. We'll go back a few years, probably 1963 or 64 for what you've got, and that's the tram TR27 series. This is the E model with the giant, I guess a lot of the 27s had big S meters, but I think the E had the biggest of them all, and a big sound too, over.
Well, there you go. A big 5x7 speaker. Nothing small about this radio at all. And the microphone that I got with the radio when I purchased it did not work. I just kept it for the plug stereo type, 1/4 inch, that plugs into the lower right, you can see there. And found the Electro Voice, tried a whole bunch of microphones on it. Seemed to like this one the best.
Sounds supernatural. And looking at the S-meter, I see lots of movement, so it looks like we got enough gain coming through everything. I'm not sure when you are in the transmit mode if your meter indicates any type of modulation or output or whatever, but it is happening.
Actually, yes, that it does. It keys up and shows me. It is definitely doing some forward swinging when I'm speaking into it. So yes, it's for receive signals and modulation output both.
All right, don't have to flip a switch. The Tram Series TR27E from 1963. This was their top of the line radio, and top of the line it was. Looks like we've got 23. Do you have 23 channels on the transmit? I see you have the VFO. I'm just wondering if the transmitter clicks around to all 23.
Yes, that it does. That, in fact, from my understanding, the C and D model were not full 23 channel. This one was the first model that had all 23 transmit and receive.
All right, and of course it has the most important, which is, of course, is channel 11, at least for Saturday nights. If you're oldtuberadio.net, I'm going to pop up an ad from, it says CB Horizons Magazine, October 1963, page 33, where they're showing the Tram TR27E base station. Big ad telling you how to contact Tram Electronics out of Winnisquam, New Hampshire, and even gives you a Tram service tip. When running the 31.5 megacycle first conversion receive oscillator coil L2, tuned for maximum DC voltage of pin 7 on the 6BK7. So they didn't mind you putting the screwdrivers in there.
Oh, there you go. Then look at the coil from the bottom set of the set. Turn the slug counter clockwise to drop the grid pin number. Yeah. They definitely, well, you also got to figure, like with the Heathkit radios, a lot of ham radio operators and CB operators actually put their radios together.
Back when you could do that. And what was it last week? What do we have? The CB1. I think Paul brought by us not Hallicrafter, but a Heathkit CB1, their first, 1959 show up in the mail CB radio, and the kit. The kit was $42. It was a 4-tube radio, $42. The shipping today would be $42. So interesting stuff. We're talking with Mr. Ed. He's got our 12th radio of the evening. Maybe our final one. As I see, we're kicking into the 10 o'clock hour here. It's a Tram TR27E from 1963. Glowing in the dark the way we like it. Back to you, Ed, for transmission, and we'll see if we've got anybody else before we sign out here tonight.
Oh, thank you very much for squeezing me in there. Yeah, I figured this will be definitely last radio. Don't have time to warm up one more. With that, we'll go ahead and take a listen to the end of the show.
You're tuned to
OTR. Channel 11.
Right here in
Fresno, California.
Stay with us
Old Tube Radio.
and be modern.
And we're counting and amounting and looking for Radio
Fresno,
13.
California.
Stay with us.
Old Tube Radio.
Okay, back here at Old Tube Radio Control. I keep wanting to swing the microphone up, but we're not using the Heil. I'm not using the Heil tonight. I just for 1 week wanted to check out, back in the good old days when I was using the headset microphone. This is Audio-Technica BP1, but I see there are some problems I forgot why I switched over to the boom microphone. It's kind of nice, though, having everything together. Probably, hopefully, gets a little less room noise when this is a very live room. But unfortunately, it gets a lot more me noise because the microphone is right there in your face. So I apologize if I was brailing down anybody's neck tonight. Counting and amounting, let's see what we did in the SWL side. We had 10 on page 1, 17 on page 2, 11 on page 3, and 19 on page 4 for a total of 57. Also, I'm popping my page. Let me move the microphone back a little bit. And what did I say? 57. I don't think we added anybody new. We are halfway through week 4 in the 8-week roster here. And then radios. I knew it was going to be a little slow tonight, but we did okay in the radios. 12 radios tonight. And who was the most heard manufacturer? Well, it started out to be the General Radio telephones. And then the Brownings kind of tied them up. Then it looked like it might be the Trams, but we got a couple more Brownings. So we had 4 Brownings tonight, but a good selection. Starting off with the Tram Titan 2A from Phil, the double sideband. Really neat-looking radio there from 1971. Paul up in North Fork with his General Radio Telephone Super MC12. Don't hear many of them because there weren't that many made. They didn't get type accepted by the FCC. But when you hear it, which we did tonight, and you can hear if you go back on the archives, you wonder why there wasn't more of them sold. And then, of course, it's because they couldn't get type accepted. But boy, nice and loud. It'd stand up to any Tram or a Browning of the day, I think. Radio number 3, Jerry on his General Radio Telephone MC5 with the new crystal, a little bit higher on frequency than last week, but sounding good. Thanks for the tone call, the Martian, no, what is it? The Tweety Bird effect there from the MC5, a very popular radio for 1963. Radio 4 was the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. SWL50 brought that by. Thanks, Mark. Always good to get your Browning in on the list tonight. That was followed by SWL25, Jerry on his Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. Then Paul on his Lafayette Comstat 25A, one of the classic radios. That's up there with the E.F. Johnson 223. Just it looks like the classic tube radio for CB for sure. And then that was followed by the E.F. Johnson Messenger 223 from Mr. Ed. Chris on his General Radio Telephone Super MC 11A sounding as loud as ever, followed by the AM version of the Mark III from Crazy Eddie. 43 sounding really good tonight. Good signal in that I could hear him. My antenna is very low, so the problem is definitely on my end, but doing good. I'm glad he jumped in tonight with the good conditions and gave us the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III AM version. Radio 10 was Paul on his Gonset G15. Always like to hear the Gonsets in there. One of the radios you don't hear much about, but they were all over the place with 6-meter radios, 2-meter radios, ham radios, and the 11-meter style Class D as well. Radio 11 was the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB from Ed, and then he came in after that with the Tram TR27E to tie things up here with 12 radios. The Old Tube Radio Network, 34 years of on the air, thanks to you and your classic radios, and of course the SWLs cheering us all along, saying keep those radios coming, and we will try to do that as we do every Saturday, beginning at 8 p.m. Pacific time, here on Channel 11, 27085 in the Central Valley of California. Thanks to SearchLawrence.com and Fodex for keeping the Nixie tubes running, and thanks to all of you for keeping us running for maybe another 34 years. Who knows? Maybe they'll start, they're still making tube stuff. The tubes haven't gone away. They're just a little bit more expensive and harder to find. So maybe someone will put out a classic vintage tube radio. We just never know. 73, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for, if you're watching the video, it'll be up for a while. And we do archive the audio at oldtuberadio.net. Who's still in with us? Some of our SWLs are certainly going the extra miles. It's probably in the wee hours of Sunday morning for some of you. Hello, Fresno, Dallas, Georgia, still in. Virginia's still in. X4000, South Carolina, Wisconsin, Kentucky, Utah, New York. It's late out there, and out there in Florida. So 73, everybody. We will catch you next time on the Old Tube Radio Network.
Good night. Good night.
And good night to all the SWLs.
Man, I can tell when you change to the other radio wearing these headphones really bring in the low frequency.
Oh, this one's a little bit more low frequency?
Man, I can tell when you change to the other radio wearing these headphones really bring in the low frequency. I'm hearing myself. Wait a minute.
Oh, this one's a little bit more low frequency?
Man, I can tell when you change to the other radio wearing these. Oh, hold on a second. I'm trying to only get one of me here. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Dennis?
This is the basic Dennis, over.
Well, okay. 56 is saying that I don't know I could not differentiate between the microphonium on your headphones. Headphones might have made a difference, but the microphonium sounded the same to me, which is all good. Over.
Okay, and I've got it through the processors here, so I had to EQ it again so that it will make the radio sound good. This AM transmitter on this radio is real touchy. It doesn't have a lot of frequency response, so I got to be very careful with the high frequencies and things like that. So it may sound a little different. Where this might come in handy is since it's closer to my mouth, I can turn the gain down and not get as much room noise. But unfortunately, it's got a lot of handling noise when I touch the headphones and things like that. And what I was referring to for Ed, with these headphones, these are a little bit more expensive than the ones I normally wear, which are down here on the table. It really brings in, these have a lot more low frequency response, which may not, they're probably good for music, but these are communication style headsets. But boy, when he gets on the other radio and he's doing some audio processing, it's like, wow, you can hear the sub 120 hertz on these headphones. And so everybody sounded good tonight. So maybe that's why I was hearing people. All right, I need to sign out on the video. We'll catch you guys later here at the Old Tube Radio Network.